Hello everybody and welcome to Clydebridge Station and to my final modelling idea for you for 2025. Now today's modelling idea is Penzance. It's actually a station that has a little bit of an influence on Clydebridge, which I'll explain right now, in that it used to have a motorrail ramp, and that's what gave me the idea for a motorrail ramp at Clydebridge. As usual, I'm going to base my modelling idea on the sectorisation period 1982 to 1992 under which Clydebridge Station operates, and I'll be telling you a little bit of the surrounding area and what you're going to need. But let's start off by explaining Penzance Station to you, and a little tip for you is you may want to actually look at Google Street View to get an idea of the area as well. Penzance railway station is at the opposite end of the Great Western Main Line, the country end of the GWR from London's Paddington Station. It's round about 5.5 to 6 hours from Penzance to London by train. The station is located on Wharf Road in Penzance, and the high retaining wall opposite Platform 1 carries Chyndower Cliff, one of the main streets into the town of Penzance. More of that shortly. The station has 4 platforms. 3 of these are indoor and covered, as it were, for part of the area, and the 4th one is entirely exposed to the elements. The station has an overall roof, and it also has 2 additional sidings. There used to be, I believe, 3 or 4, and there is a signal box here as well for shunting movements. The station has an overall roof. It's got a buffet and a ticket office and showers for those who travelled overnight on the Night Riviera sleeper. The station is very well sited for the town centre, with the main shopping precinct of Market Dew Street not that far away, literally about a couple of minutes walk, and there's also a Premier Inn as well. It's got a good bus interchange too. So let's just talk about what you're going to need for Penzance. And we're going to actually start off with station structure if you're modelling Penzance. Now, the Brunel's overall roof at Penzance is a short one. It goes back maybe 2 or 3 carriage lengths, and the girder work on it is actually painted red, unusually. Now, in terms of making an overall roof, you'll find that there are quite a few companies out there. I think Scale Scenes is one of them, and I know David Watson, I believe, used Scale Scenes for his overall roof at Dean Park. But there are quite a few companies that do make overall roofs, and this one has got to cover 3 platforms and effectively 3 platform faces. But the station roof doesn't go back too far, and it's in very good, well-maintained condition. You're also going to need platforms, and I would actually say right now I'd recommend the scale model scenery platforms if you're modelling Penzance, because the structure of Penzance is it's 2 effectively island platforms with buffer stops at the ends, and the platforms themselves have got lamps inside the actual roofed area. Platform 4, as I say, is exposed to the elements, and this was the motor rail platform, and in fact parcels trains went into there as well. So I would certainly say use the scale model scenery platform kits, and you can also use them to make the concourse area ahead of the buffer stops. I should add as well that I'm going to be putting up some links to other YouTube videos, so you can go click on them, or they'll be in the description below as well. When building the station as well, I would also suggest you go and look at scale model scenery for their brick sheet paper for building the retaining wall that sits outside the station, which is effective for Chyndower Cliff sits on. I'd also say to you as well that you would want to build a motor rail ramp like what I've done. The motor rail facility was on platform 4, the one that is exposed to the elements outside. by looking at Street View, get an idea of the actual brickwork that you'll need for the station building as well. So I would certainly say to you to go and have a look at that. Do note, however, that there are emergency exit doors on Chyandour Cliff, but the main entrance is in Wharf Road. There's also a small bus and coach station there and on Wharf Road, and there's also a car park as well. The car park, incidentally, uses nowadays has charging points, but I would say to you here, don't worry about that, just forget about that, because in the sectorisation period, electric cars were almost unheard of. But there's the bus interchange, and then there's a car park behind that, and then there's some more car parking elsewhere. The car park at Penzance Station is partly built on one of the old sidings. I said there were two sidings, I think there were about 3 or 4, including the locomotive holding siding as well. We'll now look at some of the streets around Penzance and what you're going to need there. And one of the things I would say to you immediately is, across the road at Wharf Road from the station, there's a building that's now a Premier Inn hotel. During the period that Clydebridge station is set in fact during the period that one of the videos you're going to see was made, it has lots of photographs of Penzance in 89 and 90. It was actually a nightclub, and it's as late as the 2010s it was still a nightclub as well, but it's now a Premier Inn hotel. But it's easy to make it a nightclub, and you could make it a low relief nightclub, and your end wall of your layout, you could then have Google Street View images of Market Jew Street going up, and you could do the same in the car park area as well. Have a Google Street View image showing the road going ahead, like what I've done. On Chyandour Cliff itself, you're going to need, I would recommend, rather than just making low relief buildings, for reasons that I'm going to now explain, you may be better to actually have full size rather than low relief buildings. One of the buildings at the time of Clydebridge station being set was a Ford garage, a Ford dealership with a Shell petrol station, and it's nowadays the Penrose Court apartments. Truro Garages had the Ford franchise for the Penzance area, and you're going to need to scratch build a couple of things, but you're also there's also other items off the shelf there. In terms of the petrol station canopy, etc., Gauge Master do one, and I would certainly suggest you have a good look at that. You'd probably need to scratch build the actual new car showroom section and the Shell shop on Truro Garages, but there's also the car repair section and the MOTs get done. Scale Model Scenery have done a farm building a couple of years ago. There's a small bit with a door in it, and then there's 2 open sections. I would certainly say to you, use that building because that would actually be just ideal for making the car servicing area of Truro Garages. And so you've got a couple of other buildings, a couple of other shops like of laundrettes and a clothes shop that were there on Chyandour Cliff. There's also a hotel that's still there, and I would say to you again, some of the buildings exist today on Street View, so do go and have a look at that. But also take a look at the video with the photos of Penzance, include some on Chyandour Cliff. And as you're going along Chyandour Cliff, again, as I've already said to you, for doing at the station end of the layout, the buffer stop ends, use Google Street View images for Penrose Terrace, Llanowith Road and Thornbury Terrace, and that should give you the illusion of the road going on ahead. You'll also need some Ford cars to put in your car dealership. Corgi make these. You should have no trouble obtaining some double gauge scale Ford cars, and you could even put a used car, some other make, in there as well. The only thing I would say is the actual the Ford logo should be easy to obtain, but the style of lettering that some Ford dealerships used at the time for them in this period may be difficult to obtain. I'd certainly therefore have a look at possibly using Microsoft Word to try and make that, or buy lettering from Scale Model Scenery and paint it blue, the sort of mid to dark blue. Now, Chyndower Cliff does actually go round, and it then has a little bend that goes like that, which takes you on to Eastern Green. A little tip I would give you there is that you could use that for a scenic break, because the scenic break I would say would probably be up by where Eastern Green goes. There's a little river that flows through there. I would say, what's to stop making a little footbridge that would take you down onto the southwest coastal path, which actually happens to run on the opposite side of the railway to Eastern Green. So I would certainly say that as well. The bus company at the time there was Western National, and it was owned by Badger Line. You may well get a couple of Bristol VRTs, a Leyland Olympia and a couple of minibuses in their livery. National Express served, and indeed still serve, Penzance to this day. And National Express coaches in the livery of that period are very easy to obtain. I would certainly look at eBay for those sorts of things though. Rolling stock now, and as we're in the BR sectorisation era, 1982 to 1992, we don't have these Hitachi units. Instead we have good old locomotive hauled trains and first and second generation DMUs. I'll actually start with the first and second generation DMUs. The Class 121 and 122 bubble cars made appearances at Penzance. These worked at some of the Cornish branches. That include the line to St Ives. So you can certainly have those coming in and out. Now the ones that went to St Ives, they were actually just single cars, unlike say going to Falmouth from Truro, or the Park Newquay branch where there were in pairs. There were also some two-car conventional DMUs of various classes, but most notably 108. And they were on there, and these were all in blue and grey livery. Sprinters, of course, made an appearance. Now, before the Sprinters came, the Pacers, although they were rather unwanted and they found their problems in Devon and Cornwall, and they were moved away after a little while, after a couple of years. They were painted brown and white down in Cornwall and Devon. They were called skippers. Bouncers might be an appropriate name for them, but I digress anyway. But the Class 150 and Class 155 Sprinters would be a certain choice if you're going to use Sprinters during this layout. The reason I use the Class 150 was that for a period from 88 to 89, the 155s were grounded because of door problems, and so other rolling stock had to come in. Hence why some Class 150/1s and /2s actually reached Penzance. These would have had the normal provincial livery with Sprinter branding on them. Now, as far as I'm aware at the moment, no manufacturer makes these off the shelf currently, but I would say check on eBay, see what you can get. Locomotive hauled trains were formed of Mark 1 and Mark 2 rolling stock. Some of the Mark 1s in blue and grey would have had Network Cities branding on them, others would have been unbranded. The unbranded ones would tend to have been used on the Plymouth to Penzance locals, which were locomotive hauled usually by a Class 50. Also though, there were the Summer Saturday holidaymaker trains to Penzance, and This brought all sorts of rolling stock to the duchy. The rolling stock Mark 1s and Mark 2s, with all different variations, would have either had blue and grey with intercity on them, or would have been painted in intercity livery or Network South East livery. The Mark 2s would have also had a double micro buffet. What I mean by that is that the micro buffets, such as 6605, the Mark 2Es, they would have had one of the windows each side. The two bays of seats would have been taken out. One would have been converted into a counter with a small area, like a tuck shop type thing. But Intercity used a 6, I think it was, of these were converted further to double buffet, whereby a second bay of seats on each side was taken out to allow for an extended buffet counter with microwaves. It should be dead easy to go and put Intercity buffet branding and a red band above the windows. And indeed in one of the videos you'll actually see one of those. The overnight sleeper of course came in as well, and this would almost always be called by a 47 or a 50, and the Mark 3 sleepers in either blue and grey, Intercity Executive or Intercity Swallow would be ideal for that, along with a Mark 1 BG. And during the summer months these would have carried motor rail vans as well, hence why I mentioned to you about the motor rail ramp. There'd be one or two either in blue and grey, Intercity Executive or Intercity Swallow. Parcels trains regularly served the Penzance, and these would have been a wide variety of vehicles in all blue or Mark 1 BGs and blue and grey, all blue GUVs. Some of these would have even been in the first carnation of the parcels livery, all red with the two bands at the bottom of the BR symbol, and you had travelling post offices on a couple of these trains as well. And that now brings me on to what you would need rolling stock wise, and I think you'll have worked out that you would need a Class 08 shunter. Now, the Class 08 shunter would have come from Long Rock every morning, and one of its jobs would have been to take out the empty stock of the overnight sleeper from Paddington, and you see that in one of the videos. But the 08 shunter would have also been responsible for shunting the motor rail vans, and the parcels train. It would have took the stock either up to Long Rock Depot, which is about half a mile away, or it would have moved the stock of the parcels train from platform 4 into perhaps platform 3. Blue and grey or Intercity Swallow livery as the colours that the shunter would have carried. It would have also been possible for a Class 08 and another livery to have been at Penzance, but sadly I'm not able to find any records of this. Diesel locomotive haulage by this time was almost always Class 47s or Class 50s, and these would have wore various liveries. Rail blue, large logo blue, Network South East original, Network South East revised, Intercity Executive, Intercity Swallow. There would even have been parcels, rail freight. So there would be quite a few. I believe 47461 Charles Rennie Mackintosh made it to Penzance once in ScotRail blue striped livery, so there you go. It wouldn't be a bad fit on your layout too. And of course, we're in the Great Western Territory. What more do you need than the 3 Class 47/4s that were painted into the GWR green for the 150th anniversary in 1985. Now I've got all 3 on my layout at Clydebridge station. If you can get at least one, that would certainly be more than enough. There was also occasionally Class 37s reached Penzance on the Parksocks train. Now there's a photo somewhere on Flickr which shows 37412 in large logo blue livery at Penzance in 1989. on the evening parcels train to, I believe it was either going to Bristol or Swindon. We don't know how far it worked, but it was actually, as you can work out from its number, an ETS fitted example. It was actually ex-West Highland line. It had been ousted from there when 156s took over the ScotRail services on the West Highland line. Now 37412 was certainly a one-off, as far as I'm aware, on that parcels train. But if you have a 37412 in large local livery, it would certainly be a good fit on the parcels train. For a short period in 1990 as well, trials were done with a Class 56 on the Cornish branches, and one of them actually hauled a field 47 into Penzance one morning with the overnight sleeper from Paddington. It joined the train at Parr Station. But this was really a one-off, and 56s were very, very rare as that after that in the Duchy. And one last thing you might want to consider as a possibility for locomotives. I mentioned about intercity holidaymaker trains. A couple of diagrams had full West Coast mainline Mark III stock with the Mark III DVT on it. Now the DVT would normally be at the London end of the train on the West Coast mainline, but the Manchester to Penzance or Liverpool to Penzance train, the DVT would have been at the Penzance end of the train, so the train arriving into Penzance would have had the Mark III DVT immediately behind it. For its return up north to northwest, the DVT would then be at the rear. And occasionally you would get pairs of Class 31s in blue livery on that diagram. So there we go, that's Penzance Station. If you fancy having a go at actually doing Penzance, then why not start up a Facebook page about it, and even your own YouTube channel, and let everybody see how you're doing. I look forward to that. I'll be back with a couple more videos before the end of 2025, and I'll have more modelling ideas for you in 2026. Now, whatever you're doing, please do take care of yourselves, won't you? And enjoy your lives. And we'll see you soon. Cheerio.